Hi, I'm Connie Slocum, and I've written this book called Identity Theft It's Murder. It's a beautiful day today, and I'm glad to be here in the park with you. I was asked to read a few of my favorite excerpts from my book. So before beginning, I'd just like to say thank you for your donations to SIDS and the kind words for me. For those of you that have had problems with your computer and you don't understand how to donate over that, the address to send a check to or an anonymous donation to is Don Imus, WFAN Pediatric Center, Hackensack University Medical Center, 30 Prospect Avenue, Hackensack, New Jersey, 07601. Care of Linda Tantawi. Every dollar that you give is one more dollar than they have, so don't be ashamed if it's only $1. It's fine. It's great, actually. I found so many miracles in my journey to today, and one of those miracles is reading excerpts of my book to you guys. And without further ado, I guess I'll begin. Let me get my glasses on because I happen to have to need them. Okay. Now, one of my favorite parts of all of this is the dedication. I've adopted many children unofficially throughout my years, and one of those children was Tina from karate. I met her when she was about 6 or 7. She could do a split in between 2 chairs, not something I recommend you to try at home, but she was lovely. And at 16, I had written a book for the staff at the karate school in Paramus. And she came in one day and she stomped her little foot and she said, "I want a book too." And, you know, fooling around because she was 16. And I thought, you know what? I love this child and I want to make a book for her. So I dedicated this book to her because I wrote this for her. And the dedication reads as this. This book is written for and dedicated to Senpai Tina Macaluso of Tiger Showman's Karate. It's now known as TSK MMA, and my school is located on Route 4 in Paramus. She is a young woman with fists of fury, legs that can level a 200-pound man, and a heart that's sweet and gentle. At the time she wanted to be a sensei, so I finished it with, "You'll make a fine sensei one day." Of course, one of the male main characters, her name is Tony, and the junior high school heartthrob that I met 6 or 7 years after I wrote this book decided that he was the main character, it was fashioned after him. And I had to laugh because I didn't even know him when I wrote it. But after having read it a little bit, maybe it's true, but the thing is that everybody and their brother knows somebody named Tony who could fit the description of the Tony in this book. So I'm not really sure, but maybe I did. Okay, getting to the excerpts now. The prologue is one of my favorites because it really tells you what the book is going to be about. It's about the murder itself. He pulled her from the pillow, flat onto her back, and climbed on her chest with his knees on each side of her head. Her arms pulled tightly above her, tearing the taped skin at her wrists as the headboard moaned in creaking stress. What was he doing? She struggled and squealed from underneath the duct tape blocking the noise. She had never been more frightened than she was at that moment. Terror gripped her brain and horror ripped through her mind. He pulled the duct tape off of her mouth without mercy and held his hand over it instead. Her mind exploded. The stinging pain seared through her jaws. Her lip bled from the harsh removal of the tape, and the copper tin taste of blood on her tongue nauseated her. He reached over, took a little cup off the night table, and put one hand around her neck with his fingers, using her jaw to steady her head. On the night table were baby lotion, powder, and something looking like loose baby wipes, too. Reality infiltrated her brain. He was choking her. This was it. She struggled and cried frantically to no avail. The cup had brown liquid in it that smelled as if it were an alcoholic beverage of some kind. As it got closer to her face, she didn't want it and tried once again to free herself, squirming and shaking with every ounce of her strength. She moved her head back and forth, but it did little to deter the inevitable. His knees held her head in place, while his legs brought unbearable, aching pain to her biceps. She began to sob from deep in the back of her throat. He held her nose. She tried to move her head away with every ounce of her being. She choked on the liquid as he poured it into her. She was petrified. She wanted him to stop. She couldn't breathe, and panic swept over her. "Now take your medicine like a good little girl," the killer taunted, removing his hand to rub her throat, forcing her to swallow what remained in her mouth. She tried to scream, but he poured more of the vile liquid into her mouth and held her nose. She tried to move her head back and forth, but his knees held it tightly in place. The liquid found its way into her nostrils, burning as it exited onto her face. Her eyes eyes rolled back painfully onto the tops of her sockets, and the world around her imploded. She swallowed, choked, and coughed until he'd gotten about 2½ ounces into her. The rest was all over her face, but it didn't matter to him. Bathing her would take care of that mess. The date rape drug was in the alcohol. Reality slipped away from her mind's grasp within seconds, and only minutes passed before she was completely out of it, and the killer had total control. He stepped back and took in the scene. This one had been difficult. He considered it his masterpiece. He untied her, removed the duct tape, and carried her slight body easily to the bathtub. He put her into the water gently, slowly submerging her until she was completely underneath the surface. He stroked her hair lovingly as she laid still just an inch or two under the surface of the clear water. He adored her. He adored how her hair lightened and flowed in the water. He loved that part best of all. Little bubbles popped to the surface, and he knew that it wouldn't be long before she was dead. It excited him, and he felt his body react to the excitement. The noise stopped, and everything stood silent and still. White light surrounded her. It was quiet and serene. She floated into the softness of white silk and magnificent warmth. There was no sky, no earth, and no boundaries. It was beautiful. She was beautiful, tranquil. She saw herself through loving eyes. The answers to life came to her, beginning with one-time-altering moment. The moment of discovery, and then whirling, spiraling, spiraling, twirling epiphany. My next favorite part is the actual epiphany, and I'll read you that. Pat positioned her camera to get a full-length, tight shot of the body of a young woman that had been murdered. The woman had short black hair, caramel-colored skin, blue eyes, and weighed 100 pounds at the most. She was lying on the side of her own bed. She had her left thumb in her mouth as if she were a baby, sucking it for comfort. She was completely unclothed, except for a makeshift diaper fashioned from a towel and banana clips. There were pillows on each side of her, positioned as if she were a tiny child who might roll off the bed and get hurt. She was recently bathed, powdered, and lotioned, as a loving mother might do to her infant. A chill shot down Pat's spine, causing an involuntary shiver. It was the 9th scene of this type. The killing spree had become known as the baby diaper murders. A serial killer was loose, and no one could connect the victims in any way. They all had different jobs or took different classes at school or no classes at all. They were from completely different backgrounds. Their hair and eye colors were different. The law officials did not believe the murders were completely random, even though no pattern in the victims was emerging. Instead, they were sure that a serial killer was behind the crimes because the bodies were left in the same manner. The question was the connection. What were they missing? The answer eluded them, frustrated them, and remained unknown. The norm of serial killers is to kill the same type of person for a reason, wherever it might be. This killer was not doing that. It was a spree of complete odyssey. This current victim was 18, sweet and reserved, according to her friends questioned at the scene. She was a hairdresser, working in the salon just down the street and taking courses at the college to better herself. Her name was Daniela Hernandez. Danny was the nicest person. Who would do this? Pat heard one of the victim's friends say through an evolving sob as she snapped another photograph. Your name was Danny, she asked the victim, not expecting a response, while positioning the camera to get a close-up of the victim's face. What were those marks on her neck? Had she been strangled or drowned? She took a picture of the marks. Something about them triggered a wave of tension inside her brain. The answer was here. Pat's mind began churning. Events of the 9 murders to date fell into place as the thoughts spun haphazardly through the space-time continuum in her brain. She knew. She felt it. The answer had been there all along. She lined up the facts as she knew them, and the story fanned out in her mind, moment by moment, from the first moment she found herself involved in it. The answers played out as chapters in a story might. I hope those excerpts lure you to purchase the book and watch for my next one. Enjoy this lovely day, and know that my love and prayers are with you. As you journey into your day-to-day, look for the miracles. I promise you that they're there. You can find this book on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and Kindle. And if you want a signed copy, you can contact me at cmslocum@optonline.net, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you. Take care.